as Pat Chappell came over to inform her of a change or an injury, or perhaps, or something else happening. That no, not this late. You can't.
Yes, the umpires have a ruling where they must be notified well before they step back on court. In fact, there's also a 3-second whistle going in this competition to alert both teams to the fact that only 30 seconds remains to the restart. So there's no excuses for being late on court, and no excuses for any team to be late in notifying either their opponents or the umpires of any changes or extra time. So Jocelyn Bryant still keeping company on the sideline.
Well, I don't think we've seen this in all the years we've been doing the MOBIL League, an incident quite the same as this. We've seen a couple of teams late back out, but not a player kept off court. You see her beside Janelle Derrington waiting.
And quite freakish that neither team can score a goal to free Bryant from her fate.
Well, the one goal that has been scored was when Melbourne weren't on the court.
And even that one, I had to laugh. Nat Sloan had the shot and looked almost uncomfortable that there was nobody with her, so she passed to Duff under the post.
I have to say that when Shelley O'Donnell was invited to take that first centre pass with no opposition on the court, she looked embarrassed, or thought it.
Well, it is. It's an uncomfortable feeling, and of course it's happened at international level in the past. Australia being caught out late on court and New Zealand being asked to play on by the umpires.
Can Danny Arnott get Jocelyn Bryant on court? Yes.
Just free.
Ingrid Dick can see that it's amusing. Jocelyn Bryant's on at last. I think that's a little bit of ice that Ingrid's enjoying. So the full complement of players on for Melbourne.
Goal shooter pushing.
And her first call is a pushing one. Contact against Bryant. They're really not welcoming her to this last quarter.
Sloan. Miller. Round the corner for Duff. Across to O'Donnell. Good 1-2 between Duff and O'Donnell. So it was a good 3 minutes that Jocelyn Bryant had to cool her heels on the sideline.
She almost had to warm up again.
Sloan. Well, that did everything but drop. McInnes.
Jenky misses Benison, who had a good offer through the mid-court. She has it now.
Arnott or Flyner did well to take that one.
Roberts puts a jump up and then holds to block the rebound.
Benison takes a quick centre pass. Oh, how's that for a direct passage to Jocelyn Bryant? That's one of the quickest goals you will see.
Making up for lost time.
Offside centre, free pass, institute. Institute. Yes, sorry. Play.
Shelley O'Donnell. Sloan. And goal. They're 25th. Well, to have only scored 25 goals in nearly 3.5 quarters of netball, Anne, what areas do you think the coaching staff will be addressing before the next outing?
I think they've really had trouble linking from their feeders to the shooting circle. I think O'Donnell's had the wealth of work to do for them, and you can't expect her to do it alone. We've seen them in the last couple of matches really struggle across wing attack. They've brought Miller on in both matches to try and improve the feeding to the shooters. I don't know that the combination between Duff and Sloan has worked. I think they've both played their netball one out in this game, and you really need them linking well to open spaces for each other.
Breaking wing attack, free pass.
Miller,
wing
the
attack.
break and the turnover. That's the kind of turnover that really hurts. It's a cheap one, isn't it?
Yeah, really drops the shoulders. I think, too, though, the Institute's defence has been quieter in this game than we've seen in other matches. I was quite impressed by how Stevens and Roberts opened against Garville in round 1. But a little jaded.
Keep the contact.
As we said earlier, perhaps suffering are punishing Melbourne, who want to get on with the series after a disappointing match against Sydney Energy.
Advantage break.
Well, Melbourne, with the win here, will take a top spot on the ladder. Not unbeaten, but with 4 wins to their credit. Sydney in contacts will have had 3.
Penalty shot or pass.
That imbalance in the draw, deceptive, and that some teams have their matches loaded early on in the season, others yet have their run to come, such as Sydney Energy.
Advantage breaking wing attack.
Benison, waiting. You'll do, Arnott.
Arnott pops up to rescue her and just puts that on a string to Bryant.
Well, that's a great credit to land a pass that long, that perfectly.
It's good thinking from Benison. She saw she had little help, few offers, so she put it up in the air, giving the ball enough time for players to jump into the rescue.
Contact wing attack.
Benison, Simone McInnes.
Institute.
And just wading through a scrappy passage here.
Barney's contact centre.
Sloan leads out to help out Roberts.
Barney,
Now it's Taverner.
Goal defender.
Well, whatever position that Melbourne assume in the semi-finals, every side's going to know they're going to be tough, especially because of their defence end. When they can put out McInnes and Taverner, and either Jenke or Lynch, should Janine be back, you'd have to consider them such strong title contenders.
I think they've got to be feared simply for the reason they still have players in reserve. They're very confident they'll get Lynch back into the lineup when it comes to the playoffs. And the thought of Lynch, Taverner, McInnes is a step again. And possibly Susie Howie through the middle. So each team plays them knowing they're in good form. Plus, they have another step to go.
Arnott. A little over 5 minutes left, and the Institute struggling to get to 30 goals.
Adelaide contacts in a similar position, and they've run in some great games and still are awaiting the return of Vicky Wilson to their line.
Who?
Vicky Wilson, you may have heard of her. We'll get him later,
On the
Wilson.
whistle.
So some decisions there for Marg Ango.
A.I.S through this match, scoring 6 in the first quarter, 10 in the second, and 6 in the third. Just disturbing lack of goals, and that'll no doubt be looked at by Gay Teed and co in the weeks to come. Short from Bryant. And that come back for Stevens to take.
Just was watching in back play, Steve, and Roberts had gone out of her way to go over and have a chat with Amy Stevens. I'm not sure what it was about, but having a word to her, talking her up.
McInnes to Flyner.
That is when it's that is offside.
And Stevens holds off, trying to force it, but Arnott shoots right through her.
Michelle Benison centre pass. Melbourne on their way to their 4th win in the MOBIL League for 96. They've had too much firepower for the Institute today. Jocelyn Bryant. And now the lead out past 30. And Norma Plummer, I'm sure, will be well pleased. She's done it without the services of Eloise Southby. I think the cohesion between Bryant and Danny Arnott has been a feature. And as always, the strength of the midcourt, whether it's Ingrid Dick out in the centre or Michelle Benison, as we see now. They've got a squad, Anne, that seem to play pretty well together no matter who's out there.
Yes, it's a very balanced line. That's why it's a difficult one to take on. No weaknesses, a lot of youth, a lot of enthusiasm there, and just some natural combinations that get stronger each time they take the court.
And a good percentage builder coming up for Melbourne as they head towards 60 goals with 3.5 minutes to go. Another turnover. Jenke, McInnes,
I think too, Steve, the fact that they formed the nucleus of their state side is in their interest, because they get the extra work there as a line rather than pulling apart and blending with others as much. O'Donnell, of course, they need to squeeze in.
Shelley O'Donnell's given 100% for the Institute today, trying to get the mid-court going and the attack end. Arnott, Bryant. A little bit difficult for Shelley O'Donnell playing against many of the girls who are usually her teammates, at least at state level. Not from the same club in Melbourne. Liner.
Contact, keeper.
Bryant.
Hustle shot.
Miller. Or the A.I.S. Just a couple of minutes to go. Can't come soon enough, I guess, the final whistle for the Institute. They've really been given a lesson or two here.
Inside. Institute. Inside. Play.
Nat Sloan
Contact, goal defence, shot or pass.
and Duff.
Melbourne.
Still calling out encouragement. Lisa Wilson. Shell Benison. Minute and a half to go.
Back down. Up to where you are.
Benison unhappy with the call, or unhappy that the incident happened to her.
Defence, contact, where you are.
Bat bounce, I think Balder Williamson called it.
Miller landing well, good position, but no one at home.
Carried up. Well, a few smiles being exchanged amongst the Melbourne players as they realise it's a good night's work done. They've come to Brisbane, got a win and a loss out of the trip. With 8 points from 5 games, they're just about assured of their place in the semi-finals.
Other side.
For their part, the A.I.S will be trying to avoid last place this year. They can help that cause when they go to Perth and try to get the better of Fremantle in a few weeks' time.
Keeper, contact.
Bryant. Just about an embarrassment of riches for Norma Plummer, with Bryant and Arnott working so well today. Southby to come back into the line. Step call against Bryant. But Susie Howie recovering from a leg injury. Janine Lynch a wrist injury. Southby at university for this game. Benison. And the ball taken in by Amy Stevens. The quick passage was to try and get the last goal, as Melbourne were aware the timekeeper was up. Pretty impressive stuff from the Melbourne outfit as they cruise towards the semi-finals once more in 1996, looking for the title. Too good for the Institute of Sport, 63-31. I think Melbourne coach Norma Plummer will be pretty happy with the outcome.
Thanks, Steve. Well, Norma, congratulations. Just how much of that outcome came from trying to address your match against Sydney Energy?
Well, I haven't actually been pleased with our output right from the first game, and I think when we played Macatax in Melbourne, you know, the pressure wasn't against us, so we looked like we had the flow on the ball and everything else. But then we hit Garvel, and I felt the game against Garvel, although it was nice to walk away with the points and we won by 6, I felt the game was stop-start and we were patchy, and we still haven't addressed it really well. And I'm not pleased with the way that attack ends, you know, putting it out. Our defence ends getting the turnovers, but we're not finishing it off, so we've still got a lot of work to do.
Well, there's no denying it's formidable in defence. You said to me after another match that you really wanted to open up some spaces in attack. Is it as simple as that?
It's simple as that. We're not working the space well, and it's a matter of some of it just being a little bit too rushed without the thought and letting the ball go at the right time. It's like sometimes we hang on to it, other times we get the flow going and it all pays off. But the hesitancy's there, and whether this is because the season hasn't really started for any of us yet as far as our home matches, and so so therefore you're lacking that match practice. I'm putting it down to that. I hope that's what the problem is at the moment. I'm working on it.
Well, they gave it their best shot, the A.I.S, but there's simply too much all-court strength in that Melbourne lineup, and you'll see they're on track for the semi-finals as we check the points table. Sitting in the top 4 at the moment, Melbourne on 8 after 5 games, Sydney Energy and Contacts on 6 points after 3. The second Sydney team is in the 4, Garble having played 2 more matches. Fremantle and Queensland have a win each, the A.I.S looking for their first. The MOBIL League moves to the State Sports Centre at Homebush for the local derby between the 2 Sydney teams. That'll be our feature game on Saturday afternoon on Goal Attack. Check your local guides for times. It's an important game and it should give us a good guide to their semi-final chances. They might both be there, the Sydney teams. Hope you can join us again on Saturday afternoon as Goal Attack continues. But for the moment, from Chandler, I'm Steve Rebillard. Goodbye for now. Something to